You're listening to Birthing at Home, a podcast. I'm Elsie, your host. I recorded this episode on unceded Wurundjeri land in Naarm, Melbourne, Australia, where Aboriginal peoples had been birthing at home, on country, for thousands of years prior to the British invasion. They are the original storytellers. If you want to learn more about me, the podcast, or how I can support you in achieving your home birth, be sure to check out my Instagram at birthingathome_a-podcast. This is episode 32, shared by Britt from Perth, a local doula and mum of 4 babies, all born at home. Britt shares how she found home birth and her 4 individual and amazing journeys. This is also a bit of a funny episode and we laugh quite a bit. So if you're looking for a light-hearted, feel-good episode that exemplifies how epic you really are, this is it. If you're also thinking of home birthing but not quite sure where to start, check out my website www.birthingathome.apodcast for details on a home birth planning session with me. Now, enjoy this funny and brilliant episode. Welcome, Britt, to Birthing at Home, a podcast.
Thank you. Lovely to be here.
Thank you. Do you want to start off by telling the listeners a little bit about who you are, where you're from, what you do for work, and whatever you want?
Yep. Sure. So I am, I guess always comes first, I'm a mum. I'm a mum of 4. So my eldest is just turned 11 in December, and so we're heading into a high school phase with her, and then I have a little toddler at home who's 2. So he was born in the COVID era. He was my COVID baby. Yeah. And then a couple of boys in the middle there. So yeah, during COVID and after having my last baby, I decided to do, or sort of while I was pregnant, I decided to do my doula training to be, a doula. I think I knew I was finished having babies, so it was time. It had been like a long time coming. So that's what I do for work now. So I don't have to have my own babies. I can go and get my oxytocin pill somewhere else.
Elsewhere. Nice. And you're in Perth, hey?
I am, yeah. So in Perth, born and bred, yeah. Local.
Yeah. My first question is, how did you know that you were done having babies?
Oh, yeah, I probably shouldn't have said that, should I? Does one ever know?
Because that's what I feel like if you listen to maybe 10 episodes ago, I was like, no more babies. But now I have all of these ideas. I'm like, well, I could do this and I could do that. And, I didn't know this before. And just listening to birth stories, so many of them, I'm just like, I feel like I've got to test it out now.
Yeah.
Like 2 times is not enough.
I love it. It's addictive. Yeah, sometimes I just wish I could just go through birth, actually, because I watch it and it's just like so epic, and I'm like, I remember that feeling and like having a newborn, and I guess that's But I think 4 is probably a good quota for me.
A good quota. Oh, that's brilliant. And so all 4 of your babies were born at home.
They were all home babies, all born in different houses as well. Yeah. So, we're spreading the love all around Perth. Yeah.
Yeah. And, that's pretty amazing. Like, how did you come across home birth?
Well, it's a funny one. I would have never thought I would be the home birth type. And not that I was really, to put this in context, I was just turned 22 when I found out I was pregnant with my first. She was a surprise baby and we'd just moved interstate. So everything was new. Like I'd never even thought about kids. It was like so far down the track for us. So it had never entered my mind. Like I knew home birth was a thing, I think because relatives on my husband's side had home births in the past.
Okay. But older people?
Yeah, so my mother-in-law's sister had all her babies at home, maybe bar one, and had wonderful experiences. But, like when you're 21, 22, you're not chatting to people about about how their births were going,
Yeah,
especially
oh my gosh.
like aunties.
Yeah, like goodness me, like not even talking about vaginas, like let alone or sex or any of that, like let alone childbirth. Yeah.
It's so true. It's so true. So yeah, no, I had not really entered my mind. But then I guess when you become pregnant, it's my personality type to just, I'm like an information person and I need research and I need this and that. And I started reading and actually my husband's cousin had just had a wonderful home birth with her baby. And I had never met anyone that had had a home birth like in our sort of generation. But she'd told me how amazing her experience was. And it was just opposite to everything else I'd ever heard up until then, including like my mum's births, my grandparents, like all of my family have not been exposed to this world at all.
Yeah.
So after hearing that, I thought, that sounds crazy. That's not like, that's wild.
Yeah.
But I'll just have a little look at the stats, shall I? Anyway,
and into the rabbit hole she fell. Alice in Wonderland. Yeah, so deep. Britt in Wonderland. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, Wonderland
was there anything
great.
in particular? Was there anything like in particular that you read or engaged with that you remember? You were like, oh wow, like I'm really going to do this.
You know what? I should have actually looked this up before I
No,
started
that's
the
all right.
But there was a beautiful book that was written by a chiropractor that she lent me, and which is sort of random, I guess, but it was all about birth and about babies and about possible interventions in hospital and rates of home birth safety and, you know, all that sort of one, like very... I don't know, my mind at the time, I was working in a private hospital myself in admin. So I was very like, I need the stats and the numbers
the
and
info, the evidence.
It laid it out in a really common sense way. And that was it.
Yeah.
I remember it was a purple book, if that helps.
Okay. I shall Google purple birth books. I'm sure I'm pretty resourceful. I'm sure I'll find it. And did you seek out like a private midwife, or because obviously Perth now has the publicly funded home birth program, but I'm not sure like back then if that was around.
Yeah, so it was, the issue was that we had lived on the Gold Coast for up until about 28 weeks. And I had planning to, like, after all this reading, I was like, I don't know where to go from here over here. I'm away from home. I don't know, like, anyone local that could help me navigate this. So I was going to a hospital that had birth pools, and I thought in my mind would be like quite low intervention. That was sort of my plan, the local public hospital. It sounded great, you know, to young me back then. And then moving across here to Perth and seeing where I could possibly birth, like just flipping straight into the same public system over here, there was just a switch in my mind, like this is my opportunity. Like I can apply for something different. I can see what else is out there and I can just ask the questions. And King Eddie's had so it's like a big maternity hospital over here. Has like an external birthing centre. So it's outside of the hospital and it's in like looks like a little old house sort of thing outside of the hospital. And so that was my plan, to go there. And then as time goes on, I was sort of like, oh, maybe I should just, like, that's a pain. Like, I'm just going to go there when I'm really late in labour. That's going to be annoying to travel in the car. I'm only 10 minutes from the hospital. Maybe I'll just see if she'll do a home birth as well, because it was part of the CMP, like the Community Midwives program. And so I thought I'll just interview and I'll just see if I like the midwife that's going to offer this, and I'll just see, because it was free. You know, everything was free, so I was go for it. And so I did that. I interviewed all the public sort of freebies, and the issue is that I had declined the majority of testing through pregnancy. So through my research, I had realised that I was going to get high risk flags if I tested positive. So I didn't do any testing at all through my pregnancy, except for like baseline bloods and stuff like that, like HCG and stuff like that in early pregnancy. But I didn't do the diabetes test, and that at the time was a box that had to be ticked if you wanted to be on the CMP. And so not that they had kicked me off yet, but they hadn't fully accepted me into the program. And we were living at my in-laws' house as well. So I was potentially home birthing in my in-laws' house, and that was sort of the plan.
Yeah.
There was like a housing boom over here at the time. So we had nowhere to live. Baby was due, like we're heading into 30 weeks, 32 weeks, you know.
Wow. Yeah.
It was a fun time. And I thought I'll just reach out to a private midwife, because I'd read that if there's publicly funded midwives, there'll be private midwives in your area. I don't know where I found this information. In a book, probably.
Yeah. In the purple book.
I don't know, the purple book. Not to be confused with the other purple book that we all got in.
Exactly.
And so I just contacted some beautiful midwives. They'd just gone into private practice over here. One of them had just left the CMP. And so they were amazing. I loved them. And I said to them, look, I've declined all of this. What do you think? You've just come out of CMP. Are they going to let me do this? And she was like, you're going to get to 36 weeks and they're going to say, oh, sorry, we didn't realize you declined all this. You have to birth in hospital now. So then the birth center and my home birth would have got taken away.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
based on nothing, just that you had declined
a test. Yes.
Yeah.
Not measuring anything else or looking at me as a human or seeing if I'm healthy and happy and like I'm 22. Like
exactly. It's so ridiculous.
Yeah. So I got sort of mad then and
it's like,
and I was like,
you then.
Peter and Vanessa, please take me on, please. I begged them. And because it was brilliant, they'd just come out of, just come into private practice, so they had openings. Yeah. And so they took me on really late in pregnancy, brilliant women, and best decision ever made. Like I look back at that and I think I'm so glad I made that phone call. I was so nervous, but Yeah.
And so like I've heard a few stories lately where it's just as almost like, well, not by chance, because, you put yourself into, I guess receiving those possibilities, but like still, one small kind of, decision, like, I will just try the birth center, whatever, that's my first baby. But your birth could have gone in a completely different other direction. And like the on-flow effect of that, you then went on to have 3 more babies at home. Like it just, it could be so different. But I think that's, amazing.
Absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree. And I think sometimes you just stumble upon these things that you can just block out the rest of it because you're like, this is it. This is absolutely, it aligns with everything, all of my values. It's like speaking to me in ways that all the rest isn't. Like you can have like this epic tunnel vision and then it's great. Yeah.
Block out the haters.
Exactly. And it was like that. Yeah.
Did you end up having the same midwife or midwives for your next 3 births?
Yeah, pretty much. I think one so they swapped primary. So one was always like primary midwife, one backup, and swapped primary to the other way. And then I had that same primary because the backup midwife had her own baby. So, but I had Vanessa. Vanessa was present for all 4 of my babies, and she lives down the road. So I get to see her. Like now that I'm in the birth worker world, I get to see her all the time, which is brilliant.
That's so cool. That's amazing. I think it's really cool, that continuity or continuity or whatever is really cool because I'm doing the birth attendant training with Rhea Dempsey, and she's amazing in herself, but the first weekend we spent sharing all of our birth stories, and so Rhea is one of the first to go. And it was just so incredible because, like, she's also, you know, she's delivered, like, all of her grandchildren, not, I mean, she hasn't delivered, but she supported her grandchildren's babies to all be born at home. And just, like, imagine, like, I can't believe there actually has to be, like, research on this, because I feel like it's, like, common sense. Yes. Would you rather someone that you connect with, that you've known for ages, that's been through things with you, or would you rather, like, this person over here who you just met 5 seconds ago that you know nothing about?
No, exactly.
Like, that just doesn't make sense to me. No. Of course there's, but that's so, so cool. So what is your eldest's name?
So her name is Daisy. She's our only girl. Yes. So the poor thing. She's dead.
Big sister.
Surrounded by boys.
Yeah. And so what was, like, the birth experience like? You know, first time mum, first home birth in your in-laws' house?
Well, lucky we found a house when I was 37 weeks.
The stars aligned.
It was just meant to be. And it was the tiniest little house, and we had boxes everywhere that I sort of put tablecloths over, as in like we had lots of tables everywhere.
Yes.
To make it feel, I was like, how can I nest really quickly when you've moved house?
Instant nest. Yeah.
Soft furnishings everywhere.
Yeah, good for that. It looks way better in pictures, I can imagine, as well. You know? Yeah. They look like very trendy. And so in the new place, do you want to walk us through Daisy's birth?
Yeah, sure. So she was due just before Christmas Day on about the 22nd, I think. I don't know, can't remember. Yeah. But anyway, we had a wedding on that day. And so we went to the wedding. I feel like this is her story because she's so musical now, and I feel like it's all the dancing that was done through her pregnancy.
Came out partying.
Yeah. So we were like, yes, let's dance this baby out. Dancing, didn't happen, obviously. Yeah. And I was so glad it wasn't, because we'd just moved and gone through such a hectic time. Had some rest, and then Christmas Day we went down for a swim down at the local beach here, Trig, and it was just such an epic day. Like, the sun was gorgeous and I could just float like this, like, huge bump. Like, it was just the best morning ever. And I had totally let go of all my when is she going to come things, because it was like, do we bring a newborn to the wedding? Do we, like, it was all that running through your head of like, is she going to come early?
Yeah.
And my mum had early babies. I was 6 weeks early and my brother was 4 weeks early. So I think I expected her to be early, that maybe that was just a gestation thing, but no. So I think I just let go of everything, and I was like, just enjoy being pregnant finally.
Yeah.
So I had a beautiful morning, came home, no signs of labour or anything. And I just had, like, we ate a bit of lunch, and then I just had this urge that I needed to pee, and I was like, oh, yeah, like just a normal urge, nothing weird.
Yeah.
And went to the toilet, and I felt like almost like a rubber band snap, and my waters broke while I was sitting on the toilet.
Wow.
And so I knew because of the sound that that's what it was, even though it's like first experience. I was like, that can't be anything else but that.
Yeah. And so you remember, like, so nothing had happened before. It's that your body was like, I need to go do a wee. Yeah. And then you've gone to do that. And then, like, that's freaky. The body is so
I know,
like, like, whoa.
It was really polite, though, because I had taken a towel everywhere with me in case, you know how you do that in such a silly way?
Yeah.
You take a towel everywhere, or just in case my waters break, like it's going to.
Yeah, because what are you going to do? Yeah. Like, in the supermarket, oh, my water's just broke. I brought my towel, though.
Hold on, let me
just
mop up for you.
Yeah, as if.
I know, what a ridiculous. I look back now and I was like, why?
It brought you comfort.
Yeah. Anyway, so my body just knew it was going to happen, apparently.
Wow.
And off we went. And then that was it, obviously. Like, there was no labour or anything.
Yeah.
There was, I mean, not obviously, because I feel like in movies I was like, I'm going into labour. This is so exciting.
Yeah.
But no, we just chilled and watched movies, and I let Peter know that I thought it was my water's breaking, and she was just like, check if it's clear. And it was clear. It was all fine.
Yeah.
Which I already knew. I was just such a readaholic. Like I felt like I was just sort of helping her.
You were doulaing yourself already.
I was years ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we just chilled all afternoon and just hung out, and we were obviously so excited. Like Geordie was only 24, and we were just like this young, like I look back at how we were so not serious. Like we were like, let's watch the funniest movie we can think of. Can't remember what we watched. I think it was Bridesmaids.
Yeah. That's brilliant.
So I don't think I actually felt any proper surges until 5 in the evening.
Okay.
So it was probably about 5 hours after.
Yeah.
And they were pretty easy period pain type situation.
Yeah.
And then probably about 7, they sort of started ramping up, and I was in our bedroom, and I'd set up like a little pillow nest, which I just love a pillow nest for birth.
Yeah.
And I was just sort of rocking in there, and Geordie was great. He was just, I don't know, bringing me water. I don't even remember what he did. It was a long time ago.
Yeah, that's all right.
But he was brilliant.
Yeah, well, and that's how you remember it, and that's what's important.
No, he was good. Very attentive, I'm sure. I would have known if he wasn't.
Yeah. You'd remember that.
Yeah, I would. Yeah. I totally would. And so I think we called the midwives. It would have been, I remember it was dark when they got there, so I reckon about 8 o'clock-ish. Yeah. And I was still labouring in the bedroom, like coping really well, just enjoying the ride of it. And they set up the birth pool, filled it up, all that sort of thing. My mum came, and I just got in the pool, and I remember feeling like a big pressure when I was up on the bed. And I remember saying, like, I remember feeling like a bit grunty and a bit, like animal.
Yeah.
And I was like, I just feel like a bit like a lot of pressure down there. And then as soon as I got into the pool, oh my goodness, it was just like 50% of the pressure and the pain and just everything just released. And I felt like I could just like truly relax. Like water is just our happy place. Yeah, it was brilliant. I loved that birth pool so much. I still can like remember the feeling.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. And like, did you have, I guess we didn't really talk about, going into and having your first home birth. Like you've done a lot of reading and stuff, but do you remember having any particular fears or worries or concerns? I guess, psychosocially, like in terms of housing and stuff, you probably did. But in terms of birth itself, did you or your partner have any like fears? Do you remember?
You know what? This probably is weird to say, but I don't think I did. I didn't really.
Yeah, amazing.
No, I had all that other stress going on, so maybe it distracted me from overthinking things. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I was always just adamant that, like, my body was meant to do this, and it's just normal. Like, it's just boring and normal. It's just birth. Like, it's not it's like going for a poo. It's not even that big a deal. Yeah,
absolutely. I posted sorry, I've just interrupted Daisy's story, but
no, go.
It just reminded me of I saw these 2 videos the other day of a giraffe giving birth and like I think a rhino giving birth, and it was such a non-event. Yeah. It was so incredible and amazing, but also you could tell that like it was just
another day,
as if they'd done a poo, just a non-issue. And that's I mean, I would hope people would notice if I'd like given birth, but like I want to feel that, but in so many ways it should just be a non-event. But
I think that's the thing. I think there's so much stress put into it because of outside sources, and if we just let go of all of that and can sort of channel into like, it's just a baby. Like people have been doing this forever, like since the beginning.
Forever.
So like
literally since the beginning.
It's not that big a deal. Like it like I'm telling you now, kids when they get older, that's the big deal. Like this is
Don't tell me that.
No, I'm kidding.
You're meant to tell me it gets better and easier.
It does.
Lie to me.
There's a reason I want to just give birth all the time, okay?
Nobody's asking to, you know, have older children or teenagers, I guess. Hey.
Yeah.
And so was Daisy born in the pool?
She was, yeah. So I think the only part of that whole birth that I found challenging, like if I look back through all the births, they all have their moments. But for hers, I think the ring of fire was the bit that I was surprised by, because I think you can read about it, you can sort of expect a certain feeling, but I remember it just being like, what the heck is this? And looking at my midwife like dead in the eye, like, why?
When you're so close, so close. Like, you know, having had 4 babies, did you feel the ring of fire with all 4 babies?
I did. But I think because were probably a couple of them and one maybe not, which I can tell you about later. But I think the thing with, I don't know what it was, I just couldn't release into it. It was the one part of the birth that I couldn't relax into. Like I could feel myself running from it. If that makes sense. Like I felt like every other part of labour I could lean into and get through it and rest at the end. But this was just it was so intense, and it was just a feeling I'd never felt before. I don't know. I couldn't relax, and I feel like that probably made it worse because I couldn't. Sink into it. But the midwives, like, they were amazing. They were just like, it's okay, it's supposed to feel like this, it's normal, just keep breathing and just try and relax into it, it's normal. And I just remember saying, I'm tearing, I must be tearing. And they're going, it doesn't mean you're tearing, just relax into it, it's meant to happen, like it's meant to stretch. So that helped. But that was wild.
A very intense feeling. And what was your postpartum like with Daisy?
It was good. Like as far as I think first baby postpartum goes, I think it's always a wild ride. But
absolutely.
Yeah, like breastfeeding, I had a few hiccups with sore nipples and things like that. But like I think my midwives were just so amazing, and they were just I just trusted them, and they actually barely gave any advice or anything. They were just very supportive of me and making sure that I was getting enough rest and nourishment, and making sure that for like us as a family unit that was being prioritized. So so I think that helped heaps. And it was Christmas time, so my husband had like a month off work. So I feel like I had it pretty easy because of that. And we have brilliant family. Like both sides are just epic with the meal delivery and the, you know, I'll pick up groceries on the way, I'll get you some nappies, I'll, you know, like just they're so wonderful on both sides. Just brilliant. So very lucky. Very lucky.
What does your husband do for work?
So he's a drafty, so he's in an office. So still
what is
like drafty. Well, my kids would say he draws pictures on a computer.
I understand that. I can connect with that. Okay, sure.
So like a draftsman. So he works just in the city. And always pretty much has.
Did you do you remember getting any sort of like negative remarks or negative feedback about the decision to home birth?
Look, I think people know my
without dobbing people in, of course.
Like, yes, I want to say yes. It was more of probably an attitude more than specific remarks, because I think people were treading pretty carefully. I'm like a once I'm in, like you're not going to talk me out of it type person. And I'll also stand up for myself. I'm pretty fine with that. So
that's awesome.
So I think probably most people that know me would just be like, okay, that's what you're doing.
That's so good. That's great because then you had 3 more. So that's the attitude you need. That's the confidence you need. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. And I do think having the family history of like aunties having home births, like it's an exposure that they'd had and been like, oh, okay, so like people do it. It's not a, and they turned out fine. That's a terrible saying.
We think
they're great.
That's amazing. Yeah. So what's the age gap? Like when did you have your second baby?
So the age gap, so I had second baby in 2015. Okay. And his name is Memphis. So just under 3 years. Is that
4 years or 3 years? Okay,
Yeah, just under 3.
And so after having that incredible experience with Daisy, was it then just always like not even a question of like, where are you going to be birthing?
100%. Yeah, it was like, I don't think I even told family I was pregnant before. Like it was the first phone call I made was to Peter and Vanessa to be like,
my midwife.
Just making sure you're not booked out.
Yeah. That's amazing. Yeah. Did you do much reflection on, the pregnancy and labor and birth and choices that you made with Daisy, and how you then approached the pregnancy and birth stuff with Memphis?
Not really.
Yeah. No.
How terrible.
No.
Like, I think I just loved it so much. Like, I just loved her birth so much.
Yeah.
Like, I just came out the other side feeling so epic that I was like, let's just redo that. Can we just do that again?
Copy paste.
Yeah.
And is that how it happened?
Yeah. No, because it never does.
No. Do tell.
No. So you know what, with him, he was a bigger baby, which totally fine, like not much bigger, but he was bigger. And so in my head, I think this is what happened, is that I went into a lot of what society would call false labour and whatever. But I call now just part of labour, and sometimes having subsequent babies.
A variation.
You have some early labour that stops and starts, and that's totally fine. Yeah. But I remember going into labour in my head into labour every single Sunday for about 3 weeks in a row. And I don't know why it was the Sunday. I don't know if I had jawed home and I was really relaxed. And so it was like just enough oxytocin to get labour started.
Not quite enough.
But not quite. You wake up on the Monday without a baby and you're sort of like, this is very annoying now.
Yeah.
So on the third,
did you have like self-doubt that kind of started to kick in
100%
with that?
Yeah. And I wasn't 40 weeks. Like, this is the ridiculous thing. And hindsight is a hilarious thing because you look back and you think like, what's wrong with you? You weren't even like technically due yet. But I think I had a toddler who,
of course,
probably gets her personality from me. I won't confirm, but she's very sassy and and at like a nearly 3-year-old and being heavily pregnant, I was done. Like I was just so done and ready for baby to come and for Geordie to be home. I think that's what I wanted. I just wanted him on paternity leave.
Absolutely. Was he going to get a month off again? Or how?
I think so. I actually can't remember what he took, but it's usually like at least 2 weeks to 4 weeks he would save his leave and he'd make sure he was home. Yeah. So that was brilliant.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And how did the birth, so once you go into labour, do you want to walk us through that?
Yeah. So it was, I think for this birth it was really a head game for me, and I think because of that, every Sunday going into labour and, like I was trying to chase that labour. Like I was just wanting it to come so badly. And I was up on the ball at 11 p.m., like, yes, I'm having contractions. This is so exciting.
I can force nature.
It's amazing what we think we can do.
Yeah.
And then on that third Sunday, I'd done exactly the same thing and I was up on the ball. And then, you go to bed at 2 a.m. because you're like, okay, it's not going anywhere, obviously. I'm going to try and just have a sleep. And then you wake up again on the Monday. And on that Monday, I was adamant. I was like, there's something wrong. Like, I don't know. And it was actually my due date, I think. And I was like, yeah, there's something wrong here. I'm going into labor. There's something happening here. I'd been to the chiro. I've done all the things. Why won't my baby come out?
Yeah.
And I was like, I think I've got to send Daisy away. I think that's what's got to happen. Like, I feel like I just couldn't switch off.
Yeah.
And I told Geordie to stay home. And I'd been having like niggles every single night pretty much. But the Sunday night was another big night being up.
Yeah.
And it was like I just decided, nah, you're coming out. I don't care like what's going on. Like,
yeah.
I'm done. Like, we're done here, and you're not playing ball.
Yeah. This isn't a game.
Yeah. You're messing with me already. You're not even out yet.
Yeah. So true. So true. Oh my gosh.
So that's what I did. I sent everyone away. But it also meant that my mum couldn't be at my birth because my daughter had gone with her.
Yeah.
And so that's one thing about the birth that I was really sad about. I really missed her presence. And even though, like, she's super helpful and practically helpful at the time, but even just having her, like, female presence in the room, I didn't realise that I would miss it. I really didn't realise how much it had given to me in the first birth, just having that sort of generational support. Yeah. But,
wow.
Yeah, off track, sorry.
No, I don't think we talked about that. So your mum was there for the birth of Daisy?
She was, yeah.
Yeah, wow.
She was, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
and
which
so
I was nervous about.
Had she ever seen a home birth before?
Never.
Yeah.
Never. So she'd had both of, like, me and my brother both in hospital, and we were both really early. So I think the birth was probably not like the focal point of where the anxiety went around birth. It was more like a baby being early and navigating that whole thing. I think especially with me, there was some struggles there. Yeah. So I think that was probably more so than anything else. Like, as long as baby's okay after, you know.
Yeah.
But for her, she had 2 vaginal births, which she'll love me telling on a podcast.
Everybody that listens.
But I do think that's important because, like, she had always put it in me that, like, well, you just give birth. Like, it's not. Yeah. And, you know, you can shout and scream and it's painful and blah, blah, blah. But it was never like it's not impossible. Like, I think that is a massive part of my thinking, is that was just what you do. You just give birth. Like, it's not. Yeah. So I do think it stems from that. Yeah.
And so who was going to be at the birth of Memphis?
So it was just going to be Jord this time. Yeah. And I was waiting to see if Daisy and Mum could both be there as well. Like, I was totally fine with her being there. But when it kept going on like this, I just thought maybe that's my mental block. I don't know. Maybe I feel so, like, attached to her that I feel like I can't let her go. Yeah. Which I'd read about that happening and heard stories of women having to just send their kids away for a couple of hours and to get them into labour, sort of thing. It's like a mental thing. And then we literally walked around our whole suburb that whole day because I was like, it's happening. You're coming out.
I'm going to make it happen.
Yeah. Which actually was really lovely because we never got to go for walks by ourselves.
Yeah. This probably like the first and last time that's ever happened. Yeah. And so did that work?
It worked.
It sent you into labour?
Yeah,
wow.
It did work.
Was it any particular type of walking? You know how they, like, talk about the mile circuit, or was it just like regular walking?
I just
regular
kept going.
Pregnant lady walking.
I didn't do. No, I'd never heard of that kind of stuff back then. I just was like, I'm going to walk the baby out because I was having surges, but they were just so mild, and I was like, no, we're going to kick this thing off. But this is my son's personality, so I do feel like he needs a good kick to get moving sometimes, you know.
Yeah.
Now I see it. It's all in hindsight.
Yeah, that's amazing. And so was however you define labour, was that longer or shorter than Daisy?
I think probably longer in, like, the early labour stages, because with Daisy I didn't really get that early labour. I sort of had waters break and then nothing, and then sort of just a very small amount. Whereas with him, I did have early labour for probably a whole day, really. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, but he's just such a gentle soul. Like, I feel like he was just going gentle on me, maybe.
Yeah, oh,
Yeah.
that's another way to put it.
Yeah.
That's such a different perspective. What was the birth like with Memphis then?
So, yeah, I'd made my little pillow nest and the midwife sort of came, times I don't know, but it was dark by the time they came there. And I was labouring sort of on my bed, and our room was big enough to have the pool in the bedroom this time, which was awesome. Cool. So I could sort of, to and fro. And I remember getting in the pool, and then I think they got there around then. So I must have been I usually only got in the pool once I was pretty ready. It was like a last. I always used it as like a last resort, I guess. So they got there, and then, I don't think anything was massively different with his labour. I feel like I had a little bit more back labour with him than with Daisy, which I really actually enjoyed her labour. Like, I didn't feel any back labour. It was just surges, and I felt like pretty, I actually enjoyed it, which is probably strange to say, but like, it was painful and overwhelming, but I just sort of rode through it. Whereas with Memphis, I did get that sort of the back labour, which I then had again with one of my other kids. So I don't know what his positioning was like, whether that, played a part or whatever, but it was still fine. The water helped so much, and I sort of knew what to expect this time, that I could have sensations I'd never felt before, and was much more accepting of it. Yeah. So, and we pushed him out. We pushed him out. We didn't push him out. I pushed him.
Just you.
Just me. Yeah. It wasn't
Don't give anyone else credit.
Why do we do that?
Yeah, it's so. I saw on a Facebook group today, like, people asking about obstetricians and stuff, and people saying, so and so delivered me, like, but like, they were talking about like the baby, like her baby, like they delivered me of the baby, like that's how she had written it.
Or she'd birthed the baby.
Yeah, she'd birthed the baby. That's okay. She'd like given birth with the obstetrician there, and then that's how she was like perceiving it, that like, if it was like you delivered the package, like the postman delivered the package, like that's, and I was just like, that is such a strange way to put it, but you birthed that baby.
Pushed the baby out.
You pushed the baby.
I'm so sorry. Do you want me to get my dog?
That's okay.
Come here, Luna. She's very untrained.
That's all right. A wild dog.
The smallest wild dog ever.
Do you remember the Ring of Fire with Memphis? We already talked about that, I know, but just remind me. Yeah, so
I do remember, and I remember it was just so much easier because I felt like I knew it was fine. It didn't mean I was tearing. Like, I hadn't had any tears with Days other than some little grazes. And she'd actually come out with a nuchal hand, so to not have any tears or anything, I think was pretty good. So I didn't have that fear anymore of that. Just because of this feeling, it doesn't mean anything's sort of happening. So that was fine. And he actually came out in his sack still all the way to his shoulders. So he had this like beautiful helmet of like waters all around him as he was coming out. It just broke. Which made sense, I think, because there was a lot less pressure with him. Like, it wasn't like when I was comparing it to how Daisy had her waters sort of empty out a little bit. And I felt like there was pressure really early on with her. Whereas with Memphis, there wasn't that pressure. It was sort of like only right at the end there. Yeah. So I did feel the difference there.
Wow.
Yeah.
And when did Daisy come back?
So he was born at about 11:30, I think, in the evening, like in the middle of the night. Yeah. And she came back in the morning. So she stayed at my mum's house. And
oh, that's still nice though. So then you, like, it's such a catch-22, like you want to give as much attention to, you know, them as an individual, but like, you know, you've also got like this other individual that's like an integral part of your family. It's like,
I know. It's a juggle, isn't it? And there's no wrong or right decision. I think it's just, you just do what you got to do at the time.
That's just how it is. Yeah. What was postpartum like with Memphis?
Yeah, really good. He was such a chilled baby. Like on it, like it just is his personality. Like he fed like a champ, slept like a champ.
Wow.
He was just It was a really good postpartum. Like I don't think I had any. He was around the 4 kilo mark. I actually can't remember what he was, but he was for me, I'm quite a small person. And so is my hubby. And so he felt like he came out looking like a toddler to me. Which also really easy when you've got a 3-year-old who wants to carry you around as well. Sturdy baby.
Got to feel them strong. So true. That's what I say about Frankie as well. Frankie had to be a bit bigger, so, you know, Murphy could rough him up a little bit.
Tolerate the sibling.
Tolerate. So then what is baby number 3's name?
So that's Knox. He's our baby number 3. Yeah.
And what's the age gap between Memphis and Knox?
Pretty well 2 years. Pretty much right on. Yeah. So he was a surprise. Well, we had wanted to have 3, but we hadn't planned to have another one just yet. I think we really liked that age gap that we'd had with Daisy. Yeah. You know, like I feel like she was out of nappies and, you know, you can sort of have a conversation a little bit more and understand. And she was happy to sort of spend time with grandparents a bit more than a younger one, I guess.
Yeah.
So he was sort of a surprise, but we'd always wanted more babies or baby. Pregnancy, like all my pregnancies have been so great. I love being pregnant, which, you know, I have family members that have terrible pregnancies and I find it hard to say that too publicly. Because I absolutely adore being pregnant. Like I love every second of it. I just, I feel healthy. Like there's just something about it that, I just love. Yeah.
What do you, because I'm one of those people that hate being pregnant. So what is your secret? Do you exercise? Do you feel like it's your diet? Do you feel like that's just how it is? Like, do you do anything within your lifestyle that, you know, you could, you know, connect it to? Like,
I don't know.
Do you have any suspicions?
I have not really. I mean, other than maybe I think I'm better at shutting out everything else when I'm pregnant and just like I don't know what it is. I don't know if maybe in the rest of my life I have too much going on and so then I just really simplify when I'm pregnant so I can just focus on I don't know, just getting to know them and just enjoying it and looking like eating well and I do eat better. Like I know that I do eat better because I eat terribly otherwise. So.
But I do think like, you know, both of my pregnancies, I do like reflect quite a bit. Especially like with Frankie, who's 9 months, like what my pregnancy would have been like if I didn't have all of this other stress and all of this other noise around, you know, would I have enjoyed it more? Like how would that have, you know, impacted labor and birth? And I mean, these are obviously questions that I'll never have answers to, but, you know, it's just like so fascinating to me that, you love being pregnant. And I'm like, well, I'd do birth again, but like 9 or 10 months of pregnancy, oh, gosh. But it makes me happy that that's possible for women, you know? You might be one of the lucky ones.
I don't know what it is. I think I don't know what it is. My husband takes really good care of me. I have to give him massive props. Like maybe I just like the attention.
Oh gosh, maybe.
It's worth another child. It's totally worth expanding. Let's go for it.
He can listen to this.
Oh no, he's not allowed.
Oh gosh. And so with Memphis, you had the exact same midwives?
Exact same midwives, yep. So Vanessa
but with Knox, not.
With Knox,
Same
no.
primary.
So Peter had her own and was not, working at the time. So we had another midwife who's beautiful Naomi, who's a beautiful local midwife who everyone knows here, Naomi with the purple hair. She's wonderful, but she was really local, and I think she's going to keep barking. I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's all right.
Come here.
She's missing out.
She's so cheeky. She was local. She was around the corner from me, and I think Vanessa also thought that would be great because third baby, you just sort of never know. Yeah. Isn't it like third babies they're like wild card?
Yeah, that's what I hear.
You just never know what's going to happen. Yeah. Which good decision because he was a really fast birth.
Wow. And do you remember roughly like how many hours like Daisy and Memphis were? Like obviously you had like that big like day labor kind of pre-labor stuff with Memphis, but like is there any sort of sense of how long they lasted for or like how long that was?
I reckon like for Daisy, I'd probably I wouldn't even count the waters breaking, to be honest, because nothing really happened. So probably from like 5 p.m. and she was born just before midnight. So like pretty short for a first baby. Yeah, really.
And so then I guess then Memphis through because you're like, what is happening?
That was the mind game I think with him. Because I totally expected it to be very quick labour. Yeah. So that threw me. So it was all day, and then probably pretty much the same as far as like if you want to call it like active labour.
Yeah. And so how many hours did you say? 5 hours for Knox?
So for Noxie, I had niggles enough to keep Geordie home from work. Yeah, but I really thought it was going to be another Memphis situation. Yeah. And so we actually
every Sunday for 3 weeks.
It actually was. It was a Monday again that I kept him home from work.
Wow.
I was like, history's just repeating itself. Nah. Yeah. But instead of chasing my labour, because I was so tired because I'd been walking all day for Memphis labour. Like, how silly.
So
I look back and I'm like,
what
a goose.
Think about that.
What a goose. You did like a marathon before you did another marathon. Like, what is wrong with you?
So true.
Anyway, surrender is the word that comes to mind.
Yes.
I'll stay here. So with Noxie, I was like, I'm just ignoring it because probably not even anything. It's third baby. You know, I could be in and out of labour for weeks. You know, my body's getting ready. So I had done more reading, obviously, about like that this is normal. Yeah. And my midwives after that had been like, look, it was all completely normal. It was just that your body was prepping. Yeah. You know, in its own way, and that's just how bodies work. They do whatever they want. You can't control them or anything.
Yeah. That's nature. Yeah. Exactly.
So we actually went on a play date. We went to my sister-in-law's house and we were on the trampoline. It was great. Like we were having a great old time.
Oh my gosh. I'm just like imagining like desperately want to get this baby out. So you're on the trampoline.
I know.
Were you actually on the trampoline?
I think I was just sitting and my kids were like bouncing around me. I don't think it would have been anything too hectic because I was having some mild feelings, but like I was out. So it wasn't enough to, you just push on, don't you, I guess, when you've got 2 kids, life. You just keep going. Yeah. And Geordie was there and he was playing and I was just chatting. And then I went to the toilet and I had this almighty surge of like this is real labour. I just was like, I've got to go home. I've just
still at the play date.
I was still at the play date.
Yeah. I've got to go, guys.
Yeah. Guys, I'm pretty sure I'm having a baby.
Yeah.
So I said to Jord, like, let's go home. I would I think labour's probably coming. So I just want to just go home and just have like a little rest because I'm a bit tired.
Yeah.
So I'll just go home and like have a little sleep. So just grab all the kids' stuff and, you know, I'm waddling, like full waddling because I'm in labour.
Yeah.
But not realising.
Yeah.
And anyway, my sister-in-law was like, bye, great, nice to see you, catch you later. Like no clue. I hadn't told her I was having any surges at all.
Wow.
Kept it like a total secret while we were there. Which sort of felt like really cheeky. I kind of liked it. And we got home and my husband was putting the other kids down or Memphis down for a nap.
Yeah.
And sort of just laying with him in his bed while I laid down for my own sort of nap.
Yeah.
And the water sheet was like annoying me. I'd had this, like, you know how you make like a lasagna.
Oh, yeah.
Not a lasagna, like a bed lasagna.
I bet, yeah. I knew what you meant. Where it's like you're making the bed multiple times almost.
Yes, with like and I had the sheets there in case my waters broke.
Yeah,
you know, I was still in this weird head phrase, obviously.
Yeah, at least you weren't carrying your towel.
No, I wasn't carrying a towel. And it was just rustling and it was irritating me so much. So I pulled it out from under, like I ripped it out. And I was like, great, I can like lay down and go to sleep. And I had still had little surges coming every 20 minutes sort of thing, but nothing major. Like I was like, oh, great, I'll get a good little nap in. And the next surge that came was just like exactly like the one on the toilet. And I just had to get up on all fours. And then my waters just exploded everywhere.
Whoa,
like
and you've just removed the sheet. There's not enough towels now.
And I just grabbed the sheet and like dragged it under me to try and catch anything.
Wow.
Oh
my
so
gosh.
that was the beginning of his labour.
Yeah. Whoa. And so how long were you in labour then for?
So that was around midday and then it ramped up like straight away.
Yeah.
And I had to call Geordie out from putting Memphis asleep. Like he couldn't, I couldn't do it alone. I was in the shower.
Wow.
And it got to about 1-ish. Yeah, I don't know. So probably half an hour later.
Yeah.
And I'd been just having like back-to-back really, really strong contractions. And I said to George, like, you got to call the midwife and just tell her my waters are broken and she needs to come. I'm feeling like a lot of pressure straight away.
Yeah.
And so beautiful Naomi popped around the corner. She was only 5 minutes away.
Yeah.
And she got there, I think it was like 1:30, and then everyone came. So I didn't realise, but Geordie had actually called his parents to come and pick up the other kids to take them so that they because I thought labour was going to go on all day so that they could go and do something fun and then come back in the evening for the birth, like because I was planning how my birth was going to go.
Trying to control nature.
Yeah, always.
Yeah.
So sort of Naomi came, my mum had arrived at the same time, I'd called her at the same time.
Yeah.
My in-laws got there, Vanessa walked in and I was at the bottom of the shower. The water had gone cold because we didn't have the sort of hot water system that like facilitated much longer than 20 minutes.
Lengthy, hot showers. Yeah, of course.
And then he was just there. And so all my family was just out in the lounge room while I was in the bathroom having knocks.
Wow.
Yes.
That is amazing. Wildcard
birth.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah. So it was like an hour.
Yeah, it was from waters breaking, I think it was 25 minutes or 35 minutes, somewhere there. But it was very...
Oh, my goodness. And so the kids were still there?
Everyone was there.
Whoa.
And I remember being in the bottom of the shower and, like, birthing. I think I must have birthed my placenta already. Yeah, I would have. And Bubby was sort of covered and I was covered a little bit. And I remember my mother-in-law coming in, like I'd given permission. Geordie had asked, like, can Mum come in? And I was like, yeah, absolutely, like come in. And I remember looking, like I look back now and I think that's so like not something I would normally do. Like I was just on this oxytocin, like flying high as a kite.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, but I'm glad I did. Like I loved every minute of that birth. It was brilliant. Just so him. He is that person. Like that is his personality as well. Yeah. Just an absolute nutcase. Yeah. So like in such a good way.
Wow. Oh my gosh, that's so special. That like basically gives me like chills. Like,
Oh.
whoa, that's amazing. And so like, wow, it also so freaking fast.
Yeah.
Did you tear?
I think I might have with him a little bit. But I never had much pain with it. I think it might have been little tears, but I always found grazes way worse whenever I'd had like grazes with the babies. But no, like as far as recovery with him, I think I did a little bit just because the shower was so small. I couldn't maneuver my body in the way that I usually could in the pool. And I like could never have imagined birthing like on land, if that makes sense. Because I'm such a water person. So But no, I mean it was
and so
great.
Daisy at that point is like 5?
Yeah, she would have been like 4 and a half-ish. So she came in and and I think probably like in a bath, obviously, like it's all white and there was blood and you know. And I think she sort of took one look and was like, cool. And she was out of there.
Bye. You do you, Mum. Amazing. And so what is baby 4's name? What name?
So his name is Towns.
You're like very cool names.
Oh, thank you. I'm sure they're going to hate us. They already. Memphis hates us already for his PH. He's like, why?
Oh gosh. And so how many years is between Knox and Towns then?
So there's there'd be like just over 4.
Okay,
so closer to 4.5 years.
Yeah, so a bigger gap. Yeah.
Yeah, because we were not planning to have probably any more baby. I say probably.
Yeah.
But we hadn't opened the conversation. Like it was, we'd just bought a house and it was COVID. It was,
of course.
Wild times. So, we'd not made any plans to continue.
Yeah. Growing. And so then at when Towns is born, then Daisy's like about 9 or so then.
Yeah. So she turned 9 just after he was born, I think. Is that right?
Well.
Yeah.
And so, you know, like 9 years since your very first birth experience, did you do anything different? Did you feel different? Like obviously a 4-year gap is also, you know, a bigger gap than you had. Like, had you developed any fears? Like, had anything changed?
Well, you know what did happen in between was I had accompanied some friends and family to their births, which were not home births. There was 2 in a birth centre and 1 in a hospital.
Okay.
And, so I'd seen the way things are done in facilities that I'd never witnessed that before. Like I'd only heard about it, but I had witnessed how care providers had spoken and how women were treated and conveyor belt care. Like it was, so I do think going into my 4th birth, I was carrying a lot more than what I had ever carried with any of the births, just because I'd had that exposure to trauma. Yeah. And not with all of them, just little bits and pieces in each of them, which,
and did the fear did the emotion come from, you know, knowing what is possible or knowing, just simply knowing, or was there something in particular that you know, brought up that emotion?
You know what? I don't really know what it was. It was just this heaviness. Like I just felt this immense heaviness about it. And it never made me, like it actually made me feel stronger about where I was birthing and who I was birthing with, and be so grateful for finding the people that had cared for me, because like still to this day I'm so grateful for them for caring for me in such a respectful and beautiful way and honouring my autonomy. And like I've never had a vaginal exam in my life with all my babies.
That's
incredible.
I've
never been invaded or pushed to do a test or told I can't be a part of something because I don't do something. Like I have just been advocated for and supported through every single pregnancy and birth and postpartum. And so I did not understand what it was like for women going through this. Yeah. And I think I just felt such a heaviness about like, I don't know what it was. It was just a different perspective, I guess.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And did you have any, you know, if baby number 3 is a wild card, I feel like baby number 4 is sort of also a wild card. Like, did you have any suspicions about how Towns's labour and birth, you know, how that might play out?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I thought I was going to just like sneeze and he'd fall out.
Yeah,
like,
and pop out.
Yeah. 100%. I had that preconception. So I thought he'd come earlier because they'd gradually got earlier and earlier, like just by a few days, but a couple, like, you know, so I think Knox was like 39 and 1 or something. Yeah. And so 100%, I was ready for him to come earlier, and I was also ready for it to be like a quick, easy, jump in the pool, have a baby, done. All
Yeah.
And it wasn't.
Yeah, birth is crazy.
Cheeky.
Yeah.
So yeah, but still, you know, like Peter was back again.
Yeah.
Like the whole birth team was, you know, reunited. It was great.
Wow.
And I'd done my doula training in between as well, which was awesome. Yeah.
Did you find, like, in the labour with Towns that, you know, you put your sort of doula hat on more, or were you able to sort of separate yourself, or?
Yeah, I think only in the way that was probably quite helpful.
Cool.
Yeah, I don't think I got too much into, like the nitty-gritty of
into your own head.
Yeah. I think it was just more that like labours can be unpredictable. Like I'd seen that more and more, and that I had to eventually surrender into it, that it's probably not going to happen the way I think it's going to happen. It only took me 4 kids to get there.
Oh my goodness. And so how did it play out then?
Yeah, no, it was so beautiful. It was just we had like early labour during the day. And it was all very chilled. We were just sort of doing our normal thing. We went out, we did a few things. We came home in the evening. The kids went to bed as my sort of labour was sort of ramping up a little bit at about like 8 o'clock. Yeah. And the midwives, you know, I was just labouring all around the house and really enjoying it. It was like I really enjoyed that part of his labour for sure. Yeah. And then I did get quite a lot of back labour again with him, which I was really not hoping for.
Yeah.
And, you know, you do all the things. You go to Cairo, you do all I didn't do loads. You know, we were renovating at the time, so I was doing a lot of physical work as it was, so I didn't do a lot of exercises and things. Yeah. And jumped in the pool, and I did think, you know, like the pushing stage generally as kids go on, it's not usually like a very long pushing stage because it's like all muscles that have done it before. Yeah. And that's such a blanket statement to say. Like, I don't think that is actually true.
Yeah.
But in my head, it was just the one thing that I was like, it'll be 2 pushes and it'll be out. Because I don't think Knox is the only one I've ever had the fetal ejection reflex where I just can't stop him from coming out. Like, it's happening. We're here. All the others I have actively
had to do it.
I wouldn't say like push. I don't know. It's a weird thing, isn't it? Pushed in a way. Yeah. But yeah, with him, I really did have to I felt like I was bearing down more than any of the other babies.
Yeah, wow.
And then I did actually feel him turn in the birth canal.
Wow.
And at the time I didn't realise I 100% felt it, but I didn't sort of put 2 and 2 together about what that could mean.
Yeah.
And he actually came out sunny side up. So he came posterior, which is maybe why. he took a little bit more
yeah.
gusto. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So then when he's born, then you're looking at his face when you look down. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So when I looked down, I looked right at his face. Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Does that like speak to his personality?
Yeah, I don't know yet. I mean, he's only 2, so I feel like I'm still waiting to understand why.
Connect the dots.
I know. Yeah.
Why were you born like that?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. And obviously born in that position, did you tear at all with him?
So again,
or it was just still grazers?
I might have had a first degree.
Yeah.
That's only 2 years ago. I still can't remember. I think I might have had a first degree, very minor.
Yeah.
And maybe a slight graze.
Yeah.
Somewhere. Yeah. Yeah. But nothing.
Did they also, so because you said that Memphis was about 4-ish kilos, did they also get bigger or were they?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. So Memmy was our big guy with a huge head.
Yeah.
And the others all were around the 3.5-ish.
Yeah.
Sort of. Yeah.
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 Yeah. I mean, I love your stories. I love listening to multiple birth stories because it really just paints the picture that anything you say, like when I, was pregnant with Frankie, everybody told me second baby, you'll have a shorter labor, you'll go early. And there's such blanket statements. It's like birth just not, maybe, sure, like you can look at births and say, okay, well, some follow this trend. But, like, I think that's just coincidence because, like, they're all just different. They're different people, different bodies, like...
Yeah,
absolutely. Whereas, the hospital system just treats it as like, well, this is a cinnamon donut, so like that's going to be a cinnamon donut. Like,
yeah, so true. True. Yeah. Yeah.
And so what was postpartum like with 3 other kids? I mean, Daisy at this point is 9, so, there's no nappies, no things like that. Like, is that a pro that you've got like 3 kids that aren't grown up obviously, but
independent.
Did that help?
Yeah, like in some ways for sure. Yeah. Yeah. And I think like after you've had a certain amount of babies, like it's all very, breastfeeding was just second nature, and all that. All of that stuff that you are so worried about with the first 1 or 2. Yeah. Like it's just gets easier and easier every one you have. So, it was the family dynamic. I think that was quite hard. I think my daughter especially has really hard transitions after the babies are born, like with all of them. Yeah. And just with transitions in general, moving houses or anything like that. Okay. She just is a sensitive little soul. So, I think she finds it difficult, and she was sad not to get a sister, I think. Yeah. So that was the other side, poor love. Oh. But honestly, they're the best of friends now. And Towns asks for Daisy all day long while she's at school. So she got her little best buddy. Yeah. And thank you so much for sharing such beautiful stories. I do have a question about your doula work, and that's something that I'm thinking about, and I just have 2 kids. Yeah. How do you make it work with 4? Like, how do you make it work? Oh, yeah, it's a juggle for sure. Yeah. Like a juggle. But I think I've got such a great support system. I 100% couldn't do it without it. My husband's work is even amazing. If I've got to duck off to a birth, he can come home and work from home. So there's that, and I've got both sets of family here local in Perth, which are amazing. And so I'm very lucky, and my kids are very understanding that the plan was always for me to go back to work and do something now, and even though Towns came along, we're pushing on. That's life. Life is what happens when you're busy making other plans, hey? Wow. True. Wow. But do it. Go and do it. Yeah. I don't know how I'm going to do it. But
I'm keen. I'm very excited, and just wow. Wow. I feel like you're really good at telling your stories, and I feel, that wasn't even, I imagine, like the intricate details. Like maybe you should write a book.
Oh no.
Maybe in a few years.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's so cool. And as Daisy's like the only like girl, she has 3 brothers, has, and obviously she's 11 now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Has that conversation come up about like, where babies can be born, like, you were born at home, your brothers were born at home? Has that come up, or is that,
Yeah, I think I haven't had those sorts of conversations, but I do think it's just second nature to her to like think that babies are just born at home. Yeah. Which is, I hope, what I've given her, at least, that by default babies are born at home, hospitals are there if you need them, sort of thing. So I hope so. It's the sort of having a girl going into teenage years is, it really like, but it sort of makes you like remember how important it is to start planting these seeds early about like trusting your body and your body works well, and how to support your body instead of listening to all the things you should be doing. And I guess it all ties into itself. But I don't know, I mean, my kids have never been in a hospital unless they've broken a bone. So I don't know.
But that's what it's there for, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I don't think it would be their first option to sort of go there. Yeah. We'll see.
I don't know if you can hear my kids, but my kids are like completely screaming.
I love it. Bit of reality.
Oh, daycare's tough. Oh. Thank you so much for spending this time talking to me, Britt. It's been an absolute pleasure. I feel like I've laughed a lot, which is nice because I'm going to go deal with that meltdown now. Do you have anything else that you want to say or that we didn't talk about?
No, like other than thank you so much for doing what you're doing. Like I think for first time mums especially, like home birth is like, it's not a test birth, it's not a trial birth, like you can do it and just look into it. And I think what you're doing is such a massive part of that, just normalizing it. And it's awesome.
Thank you
Good on you.
so much. Thank you.